All right, so the next thing we want to take a look at in terms of inverse relations is the domain and range of a function and its inverse. So I'm getting a simple example here. Given the function y is equal to f of x, which looks something like a parabola, and what we want to do is state the domain and range of this function and the inverse. So first thing you want to do is you want to state the domain and range of the given function that we have. Okay, so as you can see, the domain of the original function that we have right here, it's a parabola. So all of my x values are going to be defined. So x is the member of the reals. Now we want to take a look at the range here. Now it's not the same case for the range. Yes, y is still the member of the reals, but they're restricted. Okay, so notice that we have a vertex at 0, 1. Okay, so that means all my y values are defined on the range y is greater than or equal to positive 1. Okay, so that's the domain and range of the original function y is equal to f of x. Okay, so I'll write that out right here. But now we want to find the domain and range of the inverse. So before you do that, you obviously want to graph the inverse function first. So let's pick some points here. I'll pick points that I can easily identify here. So I have a point at negative 3, okay, positive 10. Okay. I have another point right there, which is at negative 2, positive 5. And I'll pick the vertex right here. That's at about 0, positive 1. Okay, I have a point right here. We'll pick the symmetrical points right here. So 2, positive 5. And I'll pick another point up here, 3, comma, positive 10. Okay, so here are the points on the original function. To find points on the inverse relation, all you have to do is switch the x and y values. So this point's going to become 10, negative 3. Okay, and actually, I'll start plotting these right here. So 10, negative 3 is about there. Okay, and this point's going to become 5, negative 2. So that's going to be right here. Okay, and let's keep going. 1, comma 0, right there. Okay, and as you can see, the graph is starting to form here. So 5, comma 2, and so that's right here. And finally, we have a point at 10, comma, positive 3, which is going to be right here. Okay, so it's going to be a parabola, but this time it's actually going to be on its side. So it's going to look like this. Switch the graph as best as I can. Okay, so this is the best I can get it right there. So there is your parabola. It's actually on its side, and so that's it. So now we want to actually state the domain and range on the inverse relation. So here's my inverse relation. And let's go ahead and state the domain first. So the domain, notice that it's not, well, it's defined for all real values for sure, but we do have a restriction. My restriction comes from the fact that it's defined everything greater than positive 1. So x is greater than or equal to positive 1. Let's state the range now. My range is, so my parabola extends from both sides. So that means my y values are all defined. So y is a member of the reals. Okay, so there's a domain and range of my inverse function and also my original function, which is up here. Okay, so what do you notice about the domain and range of the function, which is up here, and its relation? Well, it's actually actually a nifty relationship here. Notice that the domain, which is x is the member of the reals, is the range of the inverse. Y are the members of the reals. Okay. Also notice that the range of the original function looks a lot like the domain of the inverse relation. Okay, so what could you conclude about the inverse, or so the domain and range of a function and its inverse? Well, this actually quite sums it up here. The domain of y is equal to f of x, which is the original function, is actually equal to the range of the inverse relation. Okay, so the domain of the original function is equal to the range of the inverse. And then the range of the original function is actually equal to the domain of the inverse. So not only are your x and y values all switched around, but also your domain and range are switched around. Okay, so keep this in mind when you're trying to do questions in your learning guide or in your workbook. It's actually quite a simple idea. So that's it for my lesson on the domain and range of a function and its inverse.